Okay, so welcome everybody to another episode of Break Free from Binge Eating with me, Victoria. I have a special guest with me today, and her name is Anna. I'm going to ask her to pronounce her surname properly in a moment. Anna is a psychologist, a certified wellness coach. She's the founder of Balance by Anna and a mother of two beautiful boys. Driven by her own health struggles, Anna is now on a mission to help women feel comfortable in their body and stop their endless dieting cycles. She helps achieve a balanced approach to life, wellness, by helping to clean your emotional pantry and not your kitchen's pantry. Anna believes that a balanced life is not just about the food we eat and how we move, how many hours in a week we put into our fitness routines and meal preparation. It's also how we process stress, how we manage relationships, and how we balance our hormones for optimal functioning, as well as knowing your own body and the signals it gives you. So without further ado, Anna, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
And please, can you pronounce your surname? I didn't want to mess it up.
Sure. It's Vucetic.
Vucetic?
Yeah, you're very close. It's fine. Anna will do.
Where are you from, Anna?
I'm currently I'm in Estonia, but I am from Serbia, from Belgrade, Serbia.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so I have 10 quick fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Let's see.
So number one, cardio or weights?
Weights.
If you had a magic wand, what would you love to change about the world?
The level of, if we're talking about health and wellness and things like that, then probably if I could change one thing, it would be the level of intrusion that social media has on our lives.
Great answer. And number three, favorite quote or mantra?
Let me think. I would say, considering my personal experience, it really doesn't matter how many times you fall if you manage to get up over and over again, because I do believe it's all about trial and error at the end of the day, this whole health thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so finish this sentence. When I feel triggered,
when I feel triggered, I used to eat. Now I don't. So now I would say I have a little bit of a talk with myself quite often to see what's happening. Right now I'm quite intuitive and I know what could be the problem. So I'm more, even if I cannot fix it, I just want to acknowledge it, that it's actually happening. That I am really nervous or triggered by something, someone, whatever. But it's not a matter of fixing it necessarily in the moment. It's more acknowledging it's there and I should not just push it away, but more, work on it.
Yeah, I love that. The biggest life lesson you've received so far?
This too shall pass. Yeah, that one. And that it's not my job to make everyone happy. That's a big one, at least for me, because I do come from a family where I felt that I had to make my parents so happy and so proud. And that's where the perfectionism and all the body image issues started for me anyway. So along the way with studying and, a lot of research and inner work, I think that was key. Like, I need to be happy, but it's really not my responsibility how other people see me and how happy or unhappy they are, with how they perceive me.
Yeah, that is huge.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that one.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Number 6, finish this sentence. My higher self or my best self, whatever resonates with you the most, often reminds me to.
I would say to be present in the moment. I really struggle with that. And when I think of like my best version or my highest self, then that person is a little bit more present in the moment. with everything, with the family, with kids, with whatever. My mind is racing quite often. So I'm working on it, but it's a work in progress for sure.
Absolutely. I think it's like when I first started this journey, I kind of thought if you got somewhere and you tick the box and then you were there, but it's a state of being every day to choose.
Yeah, you wake up and you make a choice about everything. And this is something that if I imagine myself in my best state, then I would be more calm and more present and more, paying attention to everything, like in the moment, not thinking ahead.
Yes. Okay, number 7, when do you feel most loved?
I mean, I have kids and they give you this unconditional love, obviously, my husband, my family. I think because I've been an expat for so many years, over 30 years, I've been an expat. If I exclude my immediate family, I live with them and I really get a lot of love from them, but it's when I go back home. Just because my family's there, my childhood friends, my cousins. So that's when there is no place for any arguments. It's just love. It's nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Okay, finish this sentence. Oh, this is a big one. This probably isn't a quick question. The meaning of life is.
The meaning. Oh, okay. For me, I was, you said it's not a very short answer. So I was always chasing something, maybe related to school or to work or a certain body type or certain, number on the scale. And that's when the title Balance by Anna actually came from that idea that that's a meaningful life for me. So it doesn't mean that every day everything will be in balance. I don't believe in it. Because some days we just do something, more work related, more family related. So I don't mean balance in a everyday life, but as a whole, being able to enjoy every aspect of my life. Friends, family, work, kids, my downtime, my alone time. Not stretched too much in any extreme, if that makes sense. So because that led me to burnouts and really feeling unhappy with myself, and I had no idea why am I doing it for? You know what I mean? Like chasing something that seems so superficial, seems actually so superficial now.
Yeah.
But the idea about the balance is not so much, that every day you have everything under control, but it's more like as a whole. Like at the end of the year, at the end of the month, whatever, I feel that I have done for all aspects of my life the best that I could. And I gave attention to all the best that I could.
That makes so much sense. And I love how you clarified that. Even the word balance, it's almost, I'm not going to say the word impossible, even though I kind of want to say that because I believe anything is possible. It's extremely difficult to be balanced in every life area, every single day for the rest of your life, and to give ourselves grace when that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm building a business, you have your own business, and some days you just work long hours and you don't give the attention to your family maybe or your friends that they deserve. But that's where being aware that this is happening comes to play. And then I just take a step back, I take a weekend off, spend time with them. And that for me is the balanced life. Because as you said, like, I don't want to believe it's impossible, but I think it's really hard in 24 hours to, in a right way, not just like, physically spend time with someone, but this thing about being present and, engaging. I don't think it's always easy and doable. So for me, it's more like a holistic perspective.
I love that. And the last question, who is your ideal client, Anna?
My ideal client is someone who has been on a roller coaster of trials and errors and dieting, restricting, binging for way too long. Most of my clients have a history of not necessarily eating disorders, or at least not diagnosed, but definitely of let's say, going on different diets with the hope of getting that magic solution that, that will fix everything.
Yeah.
And of course it will work for a while, then it will not work. And then the cycle of restrict binge would happen all over again. And usually with that comes along some rather important either past relationships, traumas, lessons learned, acquired from early childhood that have never been spoken about. So it's a bit of both. But I would say, of course, people come to you, if they just want to lose some weight here and there. But the ideal client is this person who is tired of starting over and over, again and again, and never being truly happy.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. I mean, I do believe that if you are in a space of dieting, then you have to be aware it's constantly going to be yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
Like that's because dieting in the sense of restricting will always mean losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. Like there is no way out. That's why this word dieting, like I always use it. I always say restricting to be very clear what I mean by dieting. And that's why I'm not against, but I don't enjoy reading some of these new diets out there that are clearly restricting.
Yeah.
Because they work as a hook that you will definitely lose weight if you're under eating severely and cutting everything and anything, but then life will happen and you will start eating again, and maybe you will not even overeat, which is a key, but you will definitely gain some weight back. And that's when the negative self-talk kicks in, and the feeling of guilt and shame, and that's the road to very, very poor and bad relationship with food and with yourself, because you're putting it on you that you failed the diet. Actually, that my opinion is that the diets keep failing us because they work so well for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And then you gain weight and then you come back to them because you really know that they are going to work again. Because it's a bulletproof method. Of course, it will work if you're eating 1,200 calories a day.
Yeah.
It will work. And you come back to it like a drug, like it's okay if now I'm overeating because I know how I will be able to lose it. You know what I mean? Like that. That's the classic dieting mentality, and also classic definition of a poor relationship with food, because it means that in your everyday life you're either in the all or nothing mentality, like you're either full on dieting, working out, avoiding people, socializing to minimal because again you're stressed about what you're going to eat, or on the other hand you're just letting it go and you binge for 2 weeks
and then you start again.
Yes.
Yeah, in my opinion, and I'm glad what you said at the beginning, and this isn't to back mouth anyone that's doing this with good intentions, but at the moment there's a lot of healthy things out there that are basically selling diets in disguise but using a different word. But in my opinion, a diet is any form of restriction that you are emotionally attached to. So, I mean, we're going to dive into psychological reasons of mindset in a moment, but Isabel Fox and Duke has an amazing quote that I use all the time. And she says, dieting is not an action, it's a state of mind.
Yes. Because listen, we are all wired in a different way. We all process food in different ways. We all like foods that are different culturally, colored and so on and so forth. Some people work well with more carbs, some with less carbs, and it's fine. For me, this is totally okay. More protein, less protein, more fats, animal-based, omnivore-based, whatever. That's not the point. Like that's how you eat. If you're eating enough food, that's a choice. Yeah. What's not a choice when you say, I cannot have this, even if you're plant-based or even if you're carnivore or paleo or whatever you are, doesn't matter. the moment that you're saying, no, I should not have this, or, it's going to ruin my diet, or I cannot control myself around my favorite foods, that means that, like, let's say if you are plant-based, I'm just taking this as an example, and you say, oh, I cannot have dates because, if I have dates, then I take peanut butter, and then it's like, I just eat and eat and eat. There's a problem there. That means that, like, you're avoiding your favorite foods, which are dates with peanut butter. Right? Like, it's not, the dates are not an issue. The peanut butter is not an issue. Your relationship with it is an issue. So for me, that would be restrictive.
Yeah.
And you need to fix that aspect of your diet. And the same goes with any other diet. The moment that you feel like eating something and you are saying no because of my diet, or because of the number on the scale, or usually because people say I cannot control myself, the moment I start eating it, I will binge. True, there are very high palatable foods, and they're not meant to take 1 or 2 pieces. But this is mostly junk food, right? It's not really whole foods that we're talking about here. So again, like, it's not an issue what kind of diet you have, or let's say eating lifestyle that you have. It's more a state of, I cannot have it, or I should restrict on it, or I should avoid it, or this is where the diet mentality kicks in. And of course, like, you can have a talk with yourself, like, do I need a second piece of cake? It's fine to have that talk, like, because maybe something else is going on and you're just like numbing it. But this doesn't happen every day, right? So these conversations, you have them once in a while. But if on a daily basis you're constantly calculating something and avoiding something, then you're in a dieting world, definitely.
How would you help your clients to navigate? So I'll use my old self as an example. So I used to legit think I was addicted to chocolate, and chocolate was my thing.
Yeah.
How would you help me going back 2-3 years if I came to you and I was like, I'm addicted to chocolate, I don't trust myself? Like, what would the steps be that you would help me to trust myself around that food again?
Yeah, there are a couple of steps here, because it is important if you're triggered by chocolate, which is usually what happens, because chocolate has some really great nutritious benefits. It's not just like some processed junk food out there. So, like, having chocolate is not bad in itself, right? But the steps are definitely to understand what kind of emotions chocolate brings in you, because if it's all negative emotions, like, I'm gonna get fat, it's gonna make me this and that, then if the negative emotion is related to a food, this sounds counterintuitive, but we tend to eat it more.
Yeah.
It's like when you hate your body because you ate food, like, let's say chocolate, that will not make you change habits. That will only make you stay in the bad habit. That's why it is important that you kind of say, okay, I first need to stop hating my body and then heal it. It's not like when I heal it, I will start loving it. Yeah. So again, it's addressing the chocolate issue is like, okay, when do you have chocolate? Under what circumstances? What amounts? What emotions? And what are your thoughts that you're telling yourself while you're eating the chocolate? That's like that. Having thoughts is super important, because here is how it goes. Let's say that the situation is chocolate is on the table. Thought, I will eat this chocolate. Okay. Action, I'm eating the chocolate. Consequence, I am feeling disappointed that I failed my diet. I'm a failure. Automatically, this chocolate is linked to this negative emotion. So whenever you have any negative emotions, or whenever you're feeling how you're feeling after eating chocolate, the chocolate will be your go-to food. I'm sad, chocolate. I'm depressed, chocolate. I'm disappointed, chocolate, because it's like, okay, it's a food full of good nutritious things, but not if you eat 200 grams. So it's very important to rewire the thoughts and the emotions around any food. Food is not controlling you. Okay, like, there is no. You have the choice of what you want to eat, how much you want to eat, but it's because we have these thoughts, these patterns, while we are eating. For example, let's say you have a bite of chocolate, and if you are in the all or nothing mentality, I just had a bite, I will just eat the whole bar. Well, definitely after eating the whole bar, you will feel physically unwell, like just as a natural reaction. Like, don't blame it on the chocolate. It's the amount that made you feel unwell, like blood sugar rushing, you're a bit bloated, like your heart is, your heart palpitations are a bit stronger. It's because you just ate, like so much sugar, right? But that's if you have that kind of mentality, or if you have a mentality like, I should not be eating this, and then you ate it, it's like, I'm such a failure. So with these types of foods that we consider like our addiction foods or comfort foods or whatever, it's always a slippery slope, because again, it starts from the mentality. If your mentality is to be super rigid, then these foods don't belong in your diet. And then you create this negative emotions around them. So whenever something bad is happening, it's that food you are looking for, that's linked to that emotion.
So would it be full allowance, checking in with your body to see if you actually want it, or whether it's just an automated response? What feelings are you numbing, etc.?
So for me, I really, my clients always keep a diary. Like, they eat, and then if they want to eat something, and it becomes automatically after some time, but in the beginning you have to check in with yourself a little bit, because these foods we really eat almost unconsciously. We're just nibbling, eating, and we're not really thinking about it. But if you are triggered, you need to write down the trigger. What was the trigger? But because it doesn't have to be necessarily food, and it usually isn't. It's not chocolate on the table that is triggering. It's something in your mind. Is it some work problem, relationship problem? Is it something regarding COVID? Is it the news? Is it whatever? I don't know, but it's something that you are not willing to handle right now. And all this not being able to handle things or handling them through food, this really has so many potential, let's say, causes, right? Because, for example, you have people who will say, I don't have any other pleasure in life. I'm only looking forward to chocolate when I come home. Okay, because this eating the sugars and the fats that are together, for example, in the chocolate, they release opioids in your brain. You're feeling great. Or it can be that, after a successful day at work, just like when I was a kid, I was getting chocolate for good grades. It's an association that for, doing a good job at work or something, you treat yourself.
Yes.
Even though you may not be, you're definitely not hungry for it, but it's an emotional attachment to it. You have people, for example, who eat because what I was telling you, for example, about my family, if you have a little bit of more like strict parents or parents who are criticizing the way you look, and you were forbidding yourself these foods in order to be perfect. Now it's like, they're not here now. So, I will eat whatever I want. And I don't have to kind of tell them. They don't have to see it,
Yeah.
So childhood, family, like early on, plays a big role, but also, for example, relationships with your partner, avoiding intimacy, marital stress and weight gain is so prevalent. So again, this is something that you're not addressing, that you're not happy in your marriage. So your solution, quote unquote, is to eat.
Yeah.
Gain weight, and then maybe, this intimacy part will go away.
It's all linked, isn't it?
It's all absolutely linked. But I think that we are not also, I don't know where you come from. Definitely where I come from, we're not really taught to deal with difficult feelings.
No way.
Don't cry, I will buy you a candy, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
And everywhere you go, food is connected to any activity. If it's the movie, it's the popcorn and the Coke. If it's, if it's going out, it has to be food. So there is always a connection through food, and you're eating it even though you might not be hungry at all. And technically you're supposed to eat when you're hungry, not just when you are bored or stressed or feeling anxious or something. So So definitely you can have many reasons why, but the behavior is very much the same. There is a problem, I'm not dealing with the problem, I'm using food, and then I'm attaching bad things to this food.
That makes so much sense. How would you help a client navigate around that? Is it a case of awareness and then choice?
With every client that I had, I'm a type of a coach that I don't want them to restrict. I want them to have the freedom, let's say, to eat what they want. Of course, listen, if someone is metabolically unhealthy, it's a little bit of a different story when you really need to avoid certain foods because your markers are off the charts. But in general, if we're talking about losing some weight and constant yo-yo dieting, 10 pounds, 15 pounds up and down, that is always a symptom of restricting and binging, right? So let's see on which foods or what foods do you have on your list that are, bingeable, that you like to binge on, right? I incorporate these foods in their diets. So we work on the triggers and we work on dealing with your feelings and we work on what is coming underneath, which is why the psychology part is super important. And I would say that, if someone is having 12 sessions with me, 10 sessions have nothing to do with food.
Yeah.
Because we need to unravel what have you learned, what have you acquired, what triggers you, and now let's try to create new healthy habits. So that's one part. On the other part, it's not that because we're creating new healthy habits, you will never have chocolate. I want you to have chocolate or ice cream or whatever it is. So we incorporate it in their diet and magically they don't really want it.
Yeah, because you've allowed them to have it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one is because it's allowed. It's not a forbidden thing. Second is because they have a very good notion that I'm not really hungry for it, like physically hungry. If I'm emotionally hungry 9 out of 10 times, they'll be like, is this going to solve my problems? Probably not. So they might go for it or not, but the awareness is there. Like the awareness is there, like, okay, I had it. I'm a bit more calm down now. Let me figure out how I can deal with this. But the big one is there is no restriction. You can have every day, I don't know, 20, 30 grams of chocolate, whatever, to satisfy your lack of sleep, you're hormonal because it's that time of the month, you are a bit maybe stressed with work. And yes, it will serve the purpose. On a daily basis, it will not do you any harm. But if you wait for the weekend and then you eat not only 100 grams of chocolate, but because you raise your blood sugar, then it's done. Then for that day, you can forget about eating anything healthy because then the biology will kick in.
Yeah.
Like you will eat, your blood sugar and insulin will spike so high that in order to keep it high, you will just need to eat a lot of high processed foods to get that energy going. And that's usually why people binge. They have a binge day or a cheat day. You can, and instead of like figuring it out how in the middle of the week to use these foods here and there, they wait, and then it's all in.
Yeah, I used to do the same when I was stuck in the cycle. I used to hoard. I used to buy some every day, hoard it in my bedroom, like in this little pile would accumulate. And the second it was Saturday morning, I would eat chocolate all day Saturday, all day Sunday, like 2 kilograms in a weekend, and then starve myself all week again. And I felt like shit. My body was physically like tired, drained, bloated, and it's exhausting. Absolutely.
It is. I mean, you have to be like, there is no rule of, how many times a week you give yourself the permission to eat whatever you want. Like there is no rule. I mean, like if you feel like eating it, just eat it. We assume that physical hunger and hunger cues are going to tell you that, like, okay, you should eat a salad, whatever, protein, instead of a candy bar. If you feel like eating candy bars every single day, then this is where you need to that's where we do the assessment, like what's going on, because you might be actually under eating.
That was what I used to do.
It's something as simple, but you might be under eating, you might be sleeping less than 5-6 hours, I don't know, your hormones might be off, you might be super stressed. So there are some things that are not just related to that particular food. So it's a really complex thing to analyze and understand why people are using food the way they are.
Yeah.
For numbing feelings, for distraction, for whatever else.
Yeah. How do you define self-sabotage?
How do I define it?
Yeah.
I was asked one time, if you're having a cookie at the end of the day, is it self-love or self-sabotage? Something like that. For me, this is when I am not present. Okay. Like for me, self-sabotage is, so I'm harming myself, sure, but I'm harming myself and pretending like I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the binging. That's the binging. That's like when if I would look myself, let's say from, bird perspective, I'd be like, what is this person doing? Why is she eating 3 sandwiches and 2 chocolates and then snacking on pretzels and then eating ice cream? And that's self-sabotage for me. There is no self-love there. Absolutely none. For me, that's when that's when you feel and you're acting like you're really, like you're possessed by an alien.
Yeah.
Out of body experience, out of, control. Because again, like you can have all these foods in the amounts that are, normal, right? But this, when I think about binging, and this, like, I'm going to the shop with a specific idea in mind, I'm gonna binge now. That's self-sabotage. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna buy you chocolate and then I will eat 100 grams in a week. That's fine. That's self-love. You take care of your mental health, your soul, right? But when you are planning to binge, then and the way you're binging is not, there is no pleasure actually. Actually, there is no pleasure. You're not savoring. You're just opening and eating and opening and eating and you're stuffing yourself to stuff whatever you need to stuff, whatever emotion is up there. So that is completely not even serving the purpose.
Yeah.
Of binging, like you're not even enjoying it.
Do you think self-sabotage is linked to like past childhood trauma, like big trauma, small traumas? I mean, trauma's trauma to the individual regardless.
For sure. I mean, if you grew up in and it can happen. I mean, of course, listen, if you grew up with parents who were super strict or who had their own eating disorders or disordered ways of eating, or where you were, let's say, put on a pedestal to be the perfect child with the perfect grades, with the perfect whatever. And that very often happens with girls, especially for some reason. I hear this story over and over again. Like the boys can be bad in school, but the girls have to be good and, responsible and all this kind of things. There comes a time usually when you feel like you cannot control everything, right? So you cannot control your environment, your work, and everything that you could as a child, like because little was expected from you, let's say. But then you grow up, and then you're not in a bubble anymore in your family, and you have your own family, your own kids, your job, your friends, your relationships, and it becomes a little bit of a let's say an environment where you just need to manage something. Very often I will hear that the way to control food or binge on food is the need for control. Because I cannot control my boss, but I can control my body, what goes in and what goes out, and how much like the body is like your own weapon,
Yeah.
And for sure in my family, if you were thin, you were recognized for being thin, because that was, to make it even more absurd, being thin, which is something which I really hate now that is happening in social media. Thin is now identified with healthy. So they say, I want to be healthy. I'm like, don't say I want to be healthy when you're actually thinking I want to be thin. Like, let's move that out of the equation. Oh, I want to be healthy. No, like we know what is the healthy range and we know what is thin or super slim or something like that. So I am against it. But like in my family, you were praised, like, oh, you're taking care of yourself, you're eating the right foods. But also the message was like, if you're eating something which is bad, what kind of person are you? So for me, that's when I started. I was like super controlling my food because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And that was something that I learned that I had to afterwards, ditch. But that's something that I learned, that's the way how you control things, which is not really true. But you have this feeling, if you can control your body, your weight, then everything is under control.
Absolutely get that. I was anorexic as a teenager, and that was definitely a control thing, because it moved over to other areas of my life, like OCD tendencies with cleanliness and tidying, and your body's changing, you're growing boobs, you're getting a period, like my parents were breaking up, and I was like, okay, the only thing I can physically control is just not to eat. And then you get praised for not eating because you get slimmer, until you go to the extreme, of course, and everyone's, how are you doing it, you look amazing, and then your child brain is like, oh, that means I'm loved, and then away you go.
Yeah, it's a cycle that unfortunately exists still today, with women who are way in their 40s, 50s, whatever, because it's a learned thing. You don't have to be anorexic, to be very clear. No. But that feeling of the less I weigh or the more weight I lose, I will be praised more.
Yes.
So I don't know, I'm a little bit like, I'm aware that we're all doing it and we're all wondering, but I have learned so much now that not to comment or not to ask, just because I got these comments, like I was always a slim kid, and then I gained quite a bit of weight in my teenage years. And then I tried dieting, but at that time there was no internet, so I was just doing it on my own. And then during university years, I always felt, comparing to others, a little bit more like chubbier or fuller. And it was bothering me, obviously, because I really think I really thought I didn't fit in. But my issue was that was sort of manageable, because that was my weight. I was sort of eating okay. I was dieting all the time, not dieting, but my weight wasn't going up and down too much. But when I had my kids and I had a huge hormonal imbalance, I lost like 17, 18 kilos, which was like huge. I looked close to anorexic. Mm. I really had a problem that so many people told me that I look great.
Yeah.
But then, and I kept telling them, but this is not like real. I mean, I will bounce back. I almost felt like, and I remember I was talking to my therapist at the time. I was like, I don't know why I'm defending myself. Am I defending myself that I will gain weight, that they should be prepared for me to gain weight so that I will not again disappoint? And I was like, okay, it's enough. That was like almost 10 years ago. I was like, that's enough. I don't owe anything to anyone. But I was thinking like, I am hormonally sick and you don't know that, but the way you see me, you're sending me this message, which I know that the moment I get well, I will not be able to sustain this, because this is not the normal state of my body. I will never be able to lose 4,000 calories a day. So I was, so that was like maybe these moments are important to kind of tell you like, okay, this is all nonsense, and to focus on myself. And now I've been at the same weight for the past, 6, 7, 8 years. But I don't think that I would have understood if I hadn't gone to such a low weight. It was a good experience to understand, okay, like we shouldn't talk about it so much, or ask why you gained or why you lost or whatever. But we do it all the time, and you hear it all the time.
Yeah, we do. Even it's like, people give people compliments all the time, and it's mostly around body image. But then, even though it's a compliment, it's given as a compliment, let's put it that way, whatever can make you can also break you. So if you're like, oh, they're saying I'm looking good or slim or whatever, there's always an equal and opposite to that. So then we panic about, well, what if I put weight on, or what? And then if they don't compliment me next time, does that mean that I don't look good? And we go crazy in our minds.
For me, also the trick with that complimenting is that, okay, if you're in a steady weight, more or less, it's fine. But I had a conversation maybe like 2-3 weeks ago. A friend came and she saw me eating cake, and then she said, I didn't know that wellness coaches can eat cake. It was something, but it wasn't actually mean at all. But again, it was the perception of how can you allow yourself to eat maybe like, piece of cake or whatever I was eating. And not have such a huge difference the next day or the week after with your body. And then that's what I understood. Like, it's one thing how we complement, but also how we understand what it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's full on restriction.
Yeah.
I am aware that I shouldn't gain or lose a lot. It's not healthy. I should stay in my range, right? A bit up, a bit down, for health purposes, 100%. But how I live with my range is very, normal for me, absolutely. But I think that the way we are taught from parents, who did it their own way, which is with their own diets, and then through social media, through whatever magazines that were in the 80s and 90s, we learned one way of maintaining and losing weight, and that is severe restriction, close to any eating disorder you can have.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But
do you think so? Is it safe and doable for someone who's just, like, for example, just come to you and they want food freedom to heal their relationship with food in their body? Is it safe for them to start striving towards health goals initially, or is that something you introduce further along the line with, like, gentle nutrition? I'm curious.
I used to focus quite a bit on what they're eating. Now I am always focused in the beginning about their relationship with food and the history of eating. Like, because whatever I give them, if the habits are not changed, then it's going to be just another diet. So the mindset needs to change first around food. What is food? What food gives you? What it doesn't give you? All the, let's say, environment factors. Like, I don't have a supportive husband. My coworkers keep telling me to eat this food. They are just jealous. Like, you have the whole spectrum of people around you, right? But working on the mindset is key in that sense, because when you are free from this idea, I have to please people, I have to be a certain size, or I have to avoid these foods or not avoid these foods. And you understand the biology of your body, that, like, you will not gain weight and nothing drastic will actually happen and no one will notice. You're the only one who's noticing most of the things anyway in your mirror. Then they get relaxed with food. And then I do like for them to change some habits, but we don't start with all of them at the same time, right? So we do focus on whole foods. I don't force them to eat foods that they don't like to eat. So they're eating whatever they want. We're just assessing how much of what they should eat, like, because there are some amounts of proteins and fats and carbs that are good for you or for me. And then we're looking at some habits that they by themselves know that they're bad. Is it too much drinking? Is it too much sugar? Is it too much processed foods? And slowly but surely we're removing them and changing them with some healthier options. But here is the thing. All these, let's say, quote unquote, bad habits are usually emotional eating, stress eating, boredom eating. It's not that they are really craving it.
Yeah, no, because your body naturally wants to be, if you press a reset button on our body, your body wants to feel good. It does naturally.
Yes.
So
yes.
At least it's working with us. We just need to tune in. So that brings me to my next question. How would you, someone who's new to intuitive eating, how would they practice tuning into their body if they don't even know what hunger feels like anymore?
Oh, that's a difficult one. That's trial and error. That's definitely, that's a really, really hard one. I usually, in that sense, give them options. I want you to try all these foods and tell me, how do you feel about these foods? And not only do you like the taste? Do you like the texture? How is your digestion? How is your blood sugar afterwards? So I don't want it to spike also and create a chaos. How did you sleep that night? How are your hormones? Did you lose your period? Did you get your period back? We take, the carbs, the fats, the protein, again, with what they are eating. We're making small meal options. Like, I tell them, okay, here are 3 breakfast options for you. Try them. What kind of eggs do you like? Do you like fried? Do you like scrambled? Do you like omelet? But this is the most important thing. When they are eating, they need to always fill in a small sheet. This sheet is super important. How did I feel physically and emotionally eating this food? Intuition doesn't come that easy if you if you don't know how to eat and you have been snacking all the time on some random foods, like protein bars or shakes or something, which is, just like convenience food. So I give them usually some options, like I make some kind of small meals for them, breakfast, lunch, dinner, these are snacks, like tell me, which one do you like? And then it will happen like after a month of trial and error, they will say, for example, let's say nightshades don't work well with me, for example. Okay, sure. Sweet potato does with fish or whatever. So then they kind of assess, like I would give this, 10 points, 5 points, 3 points or whatever. This is how we start. For a good 2 months, they're eating like that. They're eating based on literally like a kid. Like when a kid starts to eat, it's like, I don't like this. Okay, let's try now this. Oh, I like it. And then as a parent, you just keep buying the same thing over again. Then you reintroduce this one that he didn't like because your taste buds are going to change. Yeah. Okay, now let's see, after 2 months, do you still hate asparagus? Because I have clients who don't eat vegetables at all. So of course, I'm going to start with, let's say, more lovable ones. Yeah. Like that everyone sort of likes. Okay, let's make potatoes and, tomatoes or whatever, carrots.
Rather I was going to say carrots.
I mean, rather than bok choy or whatever, like rather than asparagus or some lettuce. But your taste buds need to change. But in order for them to change, you really have to start enjoying this food. And the same is with drinking. Okay, you don't like water. How about you put some lemon and raspberries inside? Try it. Sparkling water, like with the mint, like whatever. But it is a really long process because the foods that they are used to eating are highly palatable foods, full of artificial sugars, full of artificial bad oils, trans fat, and so on. And they taste amazing. I mean, like if you eat them, they taste great, but that's not what your body needs. So I make this kind of meals, and then they need to assess, and then they need to grade them.
I love how you, sorry.
No. And then, for example, I tell them, okay, now it's your turn. Make your day of eating. Like based on, like you have so many things. And also they make pictures. That's super important. Make a picture of the meal that you enjoyed. Make a picture. It's like a visual thing. You remember, oh yeah, I did like, cauliflower mash, whatever. So you can reproduce it. And then you become experimental. Once you have like a good base of protein, fats, and carbs that you enjoy eating, fruits, whatever, then we can experiment a bit more or try to bring some of these foods that you said you didn't like in the beginning back in to see what's happening. But it takes time. But it also, with the taste buds, for example, people who were on a carnivore or paleo diet or whatever, who were eating meat, it does take time. For example, let's say if you go plant-based, it does take time for your taste bud to change, and you will hear, because they eat, for example, a lot of fruits, that's enough sugar for them, that like chocolate now is really not appealing. So it takes a little bit of trial and error there to create an intuition. And sometimes I catch myself like, oh my God, I'm eating the same thing all over again. But that's because sometimes I really know on the go, I know what I like. Yeah. And then there will be days where I have no idea what I want to eat. I really need to have a conversation with myself. Like, and it's ridiculous. I mean, I cook for my kids because I know what they like. Yeah. Then it's just a reminder, okay, what do you like to eat? Like, do you like salmon? And then it comes back. But I think it's a process. It doesn't come naturally for so many people because we overeat a lot on these other foods, and we forget what it feels like to really be physically hungry in order to be, okay, I really should eat something healthy now.
I love how you take such an individualized approach to each client, which is so important, because cookie cutter plans, or even saying things like, right, you're eating no veg, I want you to eat so many grams of green veg, and they're just going to be like, absolutely, it's too much of a contrast straight away, isn't it? So I love that.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, you cannot, like, if someone like has an issue with eating, let's say, vegetables, you don't give them 10 cups of vegetables for the first week. Like their stomach will explode from fiber. And the worst thing you want is for them to say, oh, this is not for me.
Yes.
It's like a person who has never worked out, and you say, okay, we're going to run 10 miles. And he's gonna say exercise is not for me.
They're gonna be like, bye, Anna.
Bye. Psycho. but I mean, so that's why it's baby steps. You have people who don't drink water. You're not gonna tell them have 2 liters of water. They'll be like, forget it. I'm going back to Coke.
Yeah.
So it's baby steps, but it's also like, it's very, very important that they are into it.
Yeah.
That's why diets actually don't work, to come back to our first topic, because most of the foods on these diets you don't like, or the amounts are so small that they're not satisfying you enough. But, you know, boiled egg with the toast and like, that's it for breakfast, you just start loathing it. Although there's nothing wrong with the toast and the egg, but just not in that shape, right? So it's really the idea that, okay, we start with, you know, 3 or 2 meals a day, whatever you're doing, and then you have to be like, oh, I really like this. There is a big chance you will make it again.
Yeah.
But if I'm forcing you to eat, you know, cauliflower rice instead of real rice, there is people like, this is not rice. I'm not eating this. You know, like it's too extreme almost.
Yeah.
So you just start slow and then you build up on whatever you're building up.
I love that. We've got 10 minutes left and I would love for you to chat about body image. So I'm guessing that that's what you include in your coaching. Like, can you give us like probably the 3 most prominent things that help when someone is coming to you and they're like, I literally can't look in the mirror because I just feel disgusted in myself? How do you navigate that so they come to oh, you know what, I'm all right kind of thing?
That's also a long process, because body image has nothing to do with the body. It has to do with the state of mind. I think by now we all kind of understood this. There are also different ways how we perceive the body. Some clients are just nit and picking everything, like, you know, like they're fat, or if they gain something and they're just focused on that specific area, you know, like belly or whatever it is, underarms or something like that. Some of them, it's more like I'm disgusted with myself as a whole, right? So the first step, again, is to see where this is coming from. Hating your body is one of the biggest factors in emotional eating. And hating your body will very rarely inspire you to make long-lasting changes. And because many people will say, when I reach my goal weight, I will stop, you know, hating my body.
Yeah.
But you need to stop doing it, and then you will reach and stop doing this. The process is also is in that way that first we need to understand where the hatred comes from, because if the hatred comes like I'm eating so much food, then we're coming to the food, right? The hatred can come from comments received, so that maybe they don't even have an issue with their body, but now other people convince them that they have an issue with their own body. Partner, family, colleagues, whoever. So we're assessing how truthful are these statements. That's my favorite question. When someone says, you know, I am fat, I am this and that, how truthful are these statements? Because that question opens up quite a bit of things, right?
I love that.
Who said that this is true? And why are you putting so much emphasis and so much, let's say, importance to this person or whatever? So it can be a food issue. I'm emotionally actually eating, and that's why I gained all this weight. Let's tackle the food and the emotions. It can be coming from someone else in the environment, let's say, or usually it's close people, which is even worse, but because these people are usually the ones who give you these kind of comments anyway. But where is the truth in that statement is actually very, very important. It's what I call identifying the accuracy of your thoughts.
I like that phrase, because your thoughts aren't facts, so we need to look into them.
No, it's like when you say I'm fat. No. It's a very different thing. You cannot, there is no adjective of being fat.
No.
It's a state of mind.
Yeah.
It's your state of mind telling you that you're fat. So how I would do it is that I would say, okay, so for example, let's say I look myself in the mirror, I don't like what I see. And also Melissa told me that I looked fat yesterday in that dress. Okay, identify the accuracy of your thoughts. Create now a rational response, because they will always tell you, but this is actually not accurate. Maybe she thought this because, you know, because of this, because of that. You create then a rational response, and then you re-rate your feelings all over again. So that takes time. I mean, I'm just telling you the steps now, but it's not about so much me, convincing her, no, you're not fat. Obviously, it's about changing the feelings and the thoughts. So you have the trigger, you record your thoughts and feelings. So the trigger is, I don't like what I look in the mirror, my thoughts and feelings about it. How accurate are these thoughts? Create a rational response then, and then re-rate the feelings. So it's a bit of a longer process, but it's an important one because it's very much connected to the food, obviously. I mean, if you don't like yourself, then you're going to stop eating, and then you're going to hate food and the body, because your body weight will not change so fast. Even if you're like on a diet, it will take time, and you don't want to create a bad relationship with both your body and the food that you're eating. So all goes hand in hand.
Yes.
But there is like this 5-step process, more or less, what I use with specifically with thoughts related to body image.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to add on from there that really helps me is looking at women your size or bigger that are actually confident and happy. Well, we never know truly because we only see, social media, of course, but looking at women your size or bigger that are like living their life and showing themselves confidently, that can be quite healing to almost give yourself permission to be like, oh, if she can do it with cellulite and nothing happens, no one died, then I can do it too. And it's like looking for proof that there's another world out there that doesn't just involve constantly trying to be smaller forever and then you die.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, someone said there is nothing worse than waking up and realizing you have been dieting for 30 years. Like there must be something more in this life than dieting and trying to be thin. Like how depressing is that? You know what I mean? When you think about it. And many people actually, like this is the worst part of it. Many people actually don't even want to be thin. I mean, if they stayed like the way they are in the present moment, they will be fine. But it's just a feeling that you constantly have to fix something.
Yes.
Fix the hair, fix the face, fix the legs, fix the this, like fixing your weight or whatever. It's this constant chase for something which no one even knows what it is, which is why I think that when you start with any client or when people want to lose weight, my first and only question is why. If someone tells me it's for a bikini season, it's fine, but that means that you will gain it back.
Yeah.
Once the bikini season is over, or a wedding or an event or something. If your why is a very strong conviction, because I cannot run after my kids, because my blood pressure is high, because whatever, like there has to be a very strong why. Then you might have a chance with long-lasting results because you stand behind it with conviction that you know why you're doing this. Like, period. And then you learn how to eat properly because your why is very strong. I don't want to be sick again, or whatever issue you may had. But if your why is connected to something so superficial, like fitting in jeans, or then it's not gonna last. I'm very sorry to break to everybody, but it will not last. It will last for some time, and then it won't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Anna, how can people work with you? Where can they find you? All of the good stuff.
All the good stuff. So they can go on my website if they want to read a little bit more about me and my services, Balanced by Anna with 1 N. They can also find me on Instagram or Facebook, Balanced by Anna. They can follow me there and DM me, whatever. I mean, they have contacts on all these platforms. And I would say also on my website, they can get some really cool freebies. If they join my newsletter, I'm offering some really cool stuff for people who join. So I encourage them to come and check it out.
And everything will be linked below as well, so it's easy for listeners to click on. And do you offer, is it one-to-one? Do you offer any group?
I offer 4 different things. One program is for 3 months, one is 6 months, one is group coaching for 6 weeks, and one is let's say what I call it a reboot session. It's a quick 90-minute call. So there are 4 different services. they can check them out. They have free discovery calls with me if they want to just see what I'm doing, how I'm doing things, and we can see if we're a match, which I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
So all the options are on my website.
Thank you. And it's been an absolute pleasure to
Thank you for having me.
Listen to your wisdom. Thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you the most amazing day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. So do I.
Thank you, Anna. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.